we are here at Stratus Vineyards. It's a unusually mild February day, which we've got to love, but it's also perhaps the perfect time to talk about climate change and what certain wineries are doing to combat the effects of climate change. So I'm sitting here with Suzanne Janke.
Okay.
Or if you're going to say it the Canadian way, Janke. But I'm trying to pronounce it the proper way.
Thank you.
Here at Stratus, and we're learning so much about the environmental initiatives here, which has been really part of your ethos from the very beginning.
True. Very true.
You have 3 words that describe you: quality, sustainability, and design.
True.
And from the beginning, back in 2000, 2005, those have been the words that have kind of been key to everything that is Stratus. So tell us about how those 3 words came to be so important to Stratus.
Thank you, Priya. Yeah, those words have been sort of our guiding principles in everything that we do in terms of the way that we farm our vineyard, the wines that we create, and the way we engage both the whole winemaking process from farm to glass, and the way we entertain all of the visitors that come to the winery. So our owner was very much, aware of the trends in building design at the time. So we were the first LEED certified building in the country, and in fact, we were the first LEED certified winery in the world.
Which, just to stop right there, is a huge accomplishment, especially considering going back to 2005, before the environment and LEED certifications were really kind of de jour. So you guys were really leading pioneers in that. How come it was so important to you from the very beginning, before everybody else was talking about these things?
Well, I think our owner, because he had a background in manufacturing, he and his family were very aware that in the manufacturing environment, things had to change. Mm-hmm. But we're a farm. We are working from the land. We are nurturing the soil and benefiting from everything that it gives us. So it's even more natural and more important to be minded this way in terms of the environment when you're working from a food source, and the great nature that we have to produce these amazing wines.
I think that's something that people don't consider a lot with wineries. Is like, if you consider farmers, you know that they are so in tune with the land,
right, and
that they are obviously caretakers of that land. But that belief system doesn't necessarily carry over to winemakers or wine growers. But you're both. You grow your grapes here.
We do.
You make your wine. Mm-hmm. So it is a natural hand in hand that you're going to be sort of caretakers of the land around you.
Absolutely. And, we have an environmental mission statement, and it essentially touches on the fact that, we farm our vineyard as if our children's future depends on it. And
because
it very much does.
Yeah.
It very much does. And I think part of the taboo of beverage alcohol in the way that we've evolved it as our culture doesn't allow people the thought process that it actually is something that is grown and that is farmed. Mm-hmm. We need to think of wine as a kind of food.
Yeah, and kind of a treat or an elite food that you don't really think needs to take those extra steps to kind of caretake for future generations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you have so many initiatives that are in the vineyard and in the winery. So let's talk about what's happening outside in the vineyards, what you're doing to sort of caretake for the next generations.
Sure, we do so many different things. We started with LEED when the building opened, and we made it our mission that we wouldn't rest on just that accreditation, that we would say every year, what can we do as a business, as a farm operation, as a manufacturing facility of wine to move forward and be more gentle, be less interventionist in terms of everything that we do. And we've adopted many different things. We farm we have one block of Cabernet Franc that's farmed exclusively organically. We don't have the benefit of an organic certification because sometimes we do have to use some conventional practices in our farm, but we also have neighboring vineyards that are not organic, so it would be very difficult to get the accreditation. That said, we are Sustainable Wine Growing Ontario certified. We were one of the founding members. We do a lot of work by hand in the vineyard, so a lot less mechanization.
Yeah.
And we produce teas from neighboring natural resources like fern and nettle and horsetail, so we prepare our own teas that we spray in the vineyard.
As opposed to spraying just fertilizers and
exactly, or
chemicals.
Purchasing products for that use. We spread hay down every other row in the fall season, and that basically composts itself into the land and releases potassium, which is very beneficial for the vineyard. We have a biochar program where we should actually bring some over. We have to renew trunks and canes based on winter damage or vine virus, etc. And so rather than just putting it in a big bush pile and sending CO2 emissions up into the air, our team from Jamaica were really helpful in terms of providing us with some historical or heritage kind of based traditions and how to create almost like a mud straw hut over top of this renewed trunk cane pile, and over a course of a week or two basically smoldered this at a very protected environment and produced charcoal out of the vine cuttings. And from that point of view, we actually recirculate the charcoal back into the vineyard, which releases carbon as it's needed and acts like a sponge in terms of water, so holding water or releasing water as the vine requires. So
it's a very holistic approach to the vineyard. Everything that's coming out of the soil is kind of going back into the soil.
We try as much as possible. Of course, we're composting all of the grape skins and seeds and stems after harvest. Those go back into the vineyard as well. And then we do some fun projects where we take, for example, the lees, which are the dead yeast cells out of the winemaking process. We actually send red ice wine lees to Soma Chocolate Maker in Toronto, which I'm sure you know, our favorite friends there who are great entrepreneurs and amazing chocolate makers. And they produce a beautiful bar that uses these lees to age the cacao beans in a wine barrel and so on. So lots of fun initiatives.
Well, and they say wine and chocolate is a good pairing, so you kind of combined the two there.
We have. Yeah, and it's also just kind of like-minded, craft-minded people who are working together to evolve our food and wine culture is also part of the journey. And it's what makes us sustainable. It's about supporting local enterprise and having people support us and working together. So it's not, we're still operating a business, and it's quite a sexy business, actually. It's a beautiful place, but we have a lot of our culture embedded in the idea of being very qualitative and thoughtful in our approaches.
And all of your wines are now vegan friendly, which is amazing. The other thing about this visiting Stratus is that it is so full of light, and that's for a specific reason.
Yeah, it is. It was part of the LEED certification is to reduce your electricity and your natural gas requirements in terms of operating the building. So we have light infiltrating all of the spaces, including the winery, which is very rare because typically with wine and wine production, you're down in an underground cellar or a cave or in the mountainside, so you don't have the benefit of windows and natural light. For us, we did the exact opposite. We wanted people to feel connected to the outside, to feel connected to the land, all of the workers. We also know how important natural light is on the mental health and the physical 100%. Health of people. So that helps people who are working in the cellars feel inspired or energized by natural light. And many days in the winery, we work with almost zero lighting from artificial light sources because of this window system. So
nobody wants to be a troll living in a dungeon, right? Now, some of the other things that they do, actually one of the biggest initiatives, one of the most recent initiatives, is the lighter weight bottles. Now, this is something that is very new, but you guys have always been sort of on the forefront of environmental initiatives. Now, I remember when I was talking to Michelle Bouffard, founder of Tasting Climate Change, and one of the biggest changes she said could make a positive impact was switching to lighter weight bottles. Now you'll see here we've got two bottles. One looks smaller than the other. It holds the same amount of wine, so there's a little bit of a sort of a disconnect there where you might think, oh, but this is a smaller bottle of wine. It's not a smaller bottle of wine, it's just a lighter bottle of wine. So tell us about this initiative and why why it's so important.
Yeah, I mean, for Stratus, we've done a lot of work on tracking our emissions, on measuring our output, our carbon footprint, and so on. And for sure, the glass situation is a big deal. So we're importing glass. There are no glass manufacturers for wine locally. So glass is transported from around the world, from Europe, from Spain, from the US, which just the production of the glass plus the transportation is very energy intensive. And of course, glass is made from silica sand, which is a non-renewable resource. So we all have a responsibility into finding, ways to house wine. And of course, being a very traditional product, there's not a lot of movement in thinking about wine in paper boxes, or Tetra Packs or cans. We've tried cans as well because aluminum is infinitely recyclable. But moving to lighter weight glass has been a very successful and exciting initiative for us. So, for example, this bottle, which we used pretty much since the day we opened, it's got a very beautiful structure in terms of the shoulders and the way that the wine tapers down to the punt. But this weighs 790 grams.
Yeah.
And by moving to this bottle, which is a little more classic, a little more simple in terms of its physical design, it weighs 370 grams. So we've saved over 2 times the weight per bottle. So per case, which is 12 bottles in a case, it's 5 kilograms of weight saved, which you can imagine in terms of the production of the glass, the production of the bottle, the shipping of the bottle, and the recycling of the bottle. And even for the people who have to move and carry the bottles around, it's been a really, really amazing move in terms of saving, the emissions from this whole how do you say, ecosystem of glass production.
Absolutely. And it is amazing when you feel these two side by side. It's like you're going to get a pretty decent bicep workout out of this one. This one you'll probably need to do way more reps, but sometimes they say that more reps is good for tone. So it really depends on what you're trying to do, build muscle or just tone. But this is an amazing initiative because it is so important, and it's something that a lot of wineries shy away from because it's not sexy. It's not sexy in the traditional manner of what a bottle should look like, how it should have that punt in the bottom, which is where somms hold it to pour the wine. These are traditions that we don't want to lose. All the traditions, like the beauty of wine is in the romance of the entire experience of it. But we also need to adapt to a changing world, and you're really leading the way in so many regards to that. And I know as a vegan too, I will just say that I'm so appreciative of the fact that not only are the wines all vegan friendly here, but they also serve vegan charcuterie boards, which are amazing. They're amazing. We just had that amazing experience. They also made some cupcakes, which might be special order, but they were truly exceptional.
I have to confess they were special order for you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But just to know that it's a really welcoming experience here at Stratus for everybody, and sometimes there are lots of wineries that are vegan friendly, but when you go there, you can taste the wines, but there's really nothing food-wise to taste with them. So I really appreciate that, and that's a whole different level of environmentalism, to serve sort of the plant-based foods. But
and we love that the plant-based products that we're serving are produced locally as well.
Yes.
From again another really savvy entrepreneurial team, mother-daughter outfit. And for us, our wines are definitely better enjoyed with food, so it's part of the experience to see how wine changes the flavor with the foods that you're eating, with salt, sugar, fat, protein, etc. It's a very important learning experience, and as you know, what we're all doing here is trying to build appreciation, knowledge, and enjoyment out of our food and wine culture.
And that's what you take away from a visit here. If you do get to come out to wine country in Niagara here and try that charcuterie plate with a few different wines and just play around, you really get to expand your appreciation of the wines and the food. Because as we know, a perfect pairing is when it takes something that you're eating that is delicious on its own and something that you're drinking that is delicious on their own, and they just blend together in perfect harmony so that they are made better together. And that we have certainly experienced some amazing pairings today. So thank you so much, Suzanne. Also, I want to mention just that they have amphora here, which are those old, great, beautiful clay pots that the Greeks and the Romans used to store their wine and age their wine in. So do you want to just touch quickly on that?
Sure.
Because you've
Yeah,
got a
I have
cool
two
thing
quick things.
happening.
We're gonna launch our Amphora series of wine this spring of 2024, which is really exciting. We have a Chardonnay and a Cabernet Franc, and we just tasted some Gamay from last harvest that's being aged in Amphora. And also this spring, in conjunction with Earth Day, we are going to launch our first wine that's been bottled in reused glass. So not just lightweight glass, but bottles that we actually asked our consumers to bring back to the winery, bottles that we saved from the tasting room. And we had a partner company in Cambridge, Ontario, properly rinse and sterilize the glass, and we've put a very special wine to the tune of 50 cases into this reused glass, and that's coming up this April as well. And that's I think that'll be the first Ontario wine to go into a reused glass bottle.
So check out Stratus's website, because that release of these special wines is going to be happening at the Gardner Museum in Toronto. And you might just want to come and experience some of these incredible wines and visit the vineyards here and see some of the other initiatives that they're partaking in that are out in the vineyards. You can see some of the things that are happening there. You can see the windmills, you can see the biochar piles, you can see some of the pheromone tags, some straw. It's really, really incredible what you're doing here. Thank you so much for being such great stewards of the land. And I'm very excited to see these lighter weight bottles, because it's a huge, huge deal, folks. So try to support those wineries that are really working to make better wines and make better wines for our future.